My granny started visiting after the doctors said she wouldn't be leaving the hospice. Mom said it was a blessing, a little miracle. I thought it was just plain weird. The first time it happened, I woke up to find her sitting in the rocking chair in the corner of my room, the one that used to be hers. The moonlight sliced through the blinds, striping her in silver and shadow. She was just watching me, her hands folded neatly in the lap of her worn floral nightgown. I jumped, my heart hammering against my ribs, but then she'd smiled. It was her smile, a little tired, a little thin, but hers. She didn't say anything. She just rocked, a slow, rhythmic creak that filled the silence. After maybe an hour, she stood up, her joints popping softly, and shuffled out of the room, closing the door with a gentle click. In the morning, Mom was ecstatic. "She visited you," she'd said, her eyes wet with tears. "Her spirit is strong. She's fighting." I didn't have the heart to tell her it didn't feel like a spirit. It felt solid, real, and cold. The air around her was always so cold. The visits became a nightly ritual. I'd go to bed, and sometime in the deep, quiet hours, I'd open my eyes and she'd be there, rocking, watching. I tried to get used to it. Part of me felt guilty for being afraid. This was Granny, the woman who taught me how to ride a bike, who baked cookies that tasted like sunshine and cinnamon. But this version of her was different. She smelled different, not of lavender and mothballs, but of damp soil, like a freshly turned garden bed after a storm. And something else, something cloyingly sweet, like lily left in a vase for too long. One night, I decided to pretend I was still asleep, watching her through my lashes. She rocked for a while, same as always, but then the creaking stopped. I held my breath. I could feel her presence moving, a shifting of weight in the dark. A shadow fell over my bed. I risked a peek. She was leaning over me, her face just inches from mine. In the dim light, her features looked wrong. The lines on her face seemed deeper, darker, like cracks in old porcelain. Her eyes were open, but they were glossy and unfocused, like doll's eyes. She raised a hand, her fingers long and skeletal, and brushed a strand of hair from my forehead. Her touch was like ice. A jolt went through me, so cold it felt like a burn. I flinched, and her hand retreated instantly. The rocking started again, and I didn't dare move until I heard my door click shut. The next day, I found a small clump of dirt on my pillowcase, dark and rich like potting soil. The unsettling feeling began to curdle into real fear. The visits grew longer. The smell of damp earth and decay grew stronger, clinging to my room long after she was gone. I started noticing small things missing. A t-shirt I'd left on the floor, a book from my knitstand. Trivial things, things my mom would say I just misplaced, but I knew I hadn't. She was taking them. I tried talking to my mom again. We were in the kitchen, the morning sun feeling like a lie after the oppressive darkness of my room. "Mom, something is wrong with Granny's visits," I said, my voice trembling a little. "She's not just sitting there. She's taking things." My mom sighed, turning from the sink, her face a mask of weary patience. "Alex, please. The hospice called this morning. She's barely responsive. Let's not make this harder than it is. Maybe you're just having nightmares. It's a stressful time." Her dismissal was a wall I couldn't climb. I was alone in this. That night, I decided I needed proof. I propped my phone on my bookshelf, aimed it at the rocking chair, and hit record. Before I got into bed, I lay there, rigid with anxiety, waiting. The click of the door handle was my cue. My eyes snapped shut. I listened. The familiar creak of the rocking chair began, a slow, maddening rhythm. Creak, creak, then silence. I heard the soft padding of her feet on the carpet. She wasn't going to the bed this time. I heard her moving around my desk. A soft rustle of paper, a quiet clink as she picked something up. I chanced another look. She was holding my high school graduation photo, the one of me and my friends, our faces bright with stupid, hopeful grins. She held it close to her face, tilting her head. Then she did something that made the blood freeze in my veins. She licked it. A long, slow drag of her tongue from the bottom of the frame to the top, leaving a glistening, slimy trail. A low sound rumbled in her chest, a guttural hum of satisfaction. She put the photo down and turned, her movements becoming jerky, unnatural. She wasn't shuffling anymore. She was lurching, her limbs moving at odd angles. She came to the side of my bed and knelt down, her face level with mine. The sweet, rotten smell was overwhelming. I could see her mouth hanging slightly open. It was too dark to see clearly, but I thought I saw movement inside, something writhing behind her teeth. My heart was a frantic drum against my ribs. I thought it would give me away. She stayed there for what felt like an eternity, just breathing her cold, earthy breath on me. Then, with a final soft pop from her knees, she stood and left. I lay there, paralyzed, until the first hint of dawn. I scrambled for my phone, my hands shaking so badly, I almost dropped it. I stabbed at the screen, my breath catching in my throat. The recording was there. I pressed play. I saw myself sleeping. I saw the door open, but the rocking chair remained empty. The video showed nothing. Just an empty chair, my empty room for a full 4 hours until I reached out and stopped. The recording, she wasn't there. She was never there on the video. I didn't sleep the next night or the night after. I sat propped up in bed, my bedside lamp on, a baseball bat resting next to me, but she didn't come. 2 nights of bright, lonely, terrifying silence. On the 3rd day, my mom got the call. Granny was gone. She'd passed peacefully in her sleep. The relief that washed over me was so intense, so shameful, I almost collapsed. It was over. That night, I slept a deep, dreamless sleep for the first time in weeks. The next morning felt like a rebirth. The air in my room was clean. The silence was peaceful, not menacing. The world was normal again. For a week, everything was normal. We planned the funeral. We cried. We grieved for the woman she had been, not the thing that had haunted my nights. The night after the funeral, I was getting ready for bed, a strange sense of finality settling over me. I brushed my teeth, looked at my own reflection, and for a split second, I didn't recognize myself. My face looked thinner. The lines around my eyes seemed deeper, darker. I shook my head, blaming it on exhaustion and grief. I climbed into bed and turned off the light. The darkness felt heavy, familiar. I was just drifting off when I heard it, a soft, gentle click from my bedroom door. My eyes flew open. My blood turned to ice water. No, it couldn't be. The door swung open slowly. A figure stood in the doorway, silhouetted against the dim light of the hall. It was her, but it wasn't. She was wearing my missing t-shirt and a pair of my jeans, the clothes hanging strangely on her emaciated frame. She shuffled into the room and sat in the rocking chair. She didn't look at me. She looked down at her hands, which she held out in front of her, flexing the fingers one by one. She began to hum. It was the same off-key lullaby, but this time it was different. It was clearer. It sounded less like a hum and more like practice. She was learning the melody. Then she spoke, and all the air left my body. Her voice was a dry, rasping whisper, a chorus of stolen sounds, but underneath it, I could hear a terrifying new tone. It was my own. Almost, the thing in the chair rasped, its voice a horrific blend of her death rattle and my own timbre. It slowly lifted its head to look at me. The face was a nightmare. It was Granny's face, but it was shifting, melting, the skin stretching and reforming like cooling wax. Underneath, new features were pushing through. My features. My eyes, my mouth. It smiled, and the smile was a grotesque parody of my own, stretched across her cracked and ancient face. Almost ready, it stood up, not with the shuffle of an old woman, but with my own easy movement. It walked toward my bed, its new stolen gait smooth and confident. I was frozen, not by fear, but by a horrifying, numbing recognition. This was the dark truth. She wasn't visiting me. She wasn't haunting me. She was replacing me, stealing me piece by piece. A memory here, a possession there, a reflection in the mirror, until she had gathered enough of me to take over. The creature leaned over my bed, its face a horrifying, shifting mosaic of my granny and myself. It smelled of damp earth and cinnamon and me. "Thank you," it whispered in my voice, its cold hand reaching for my face. "It's my turn now." And as its icy fingers touched my skin, I felt my own memories begin to feel distant, like a story I'd read a long time ago, a story about a boy who used to live in this room.